Welcome to Modern Retro, episode 30. Look at that, Roy. We're in the 30s, literally and figuratively.
This is our 30th anniversary.
No, I don't know what that was.
Soon.
Wait, are you 30 yet? I've lost count.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm 30.
I stopped paying attention to all birthdays other than children now. It's like, it's to the point where I'm not that old. None of us are that old, but it's definitely to the point where I forget how old I am. I have to stop and I have to think and I have to do math and I go, God, I don't like math on the weekends.
At a certain time, birthdays just they're just bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hooray for not dying. I don't know, like, what's the point? I mean, I don't get it.
Wow, you pessimistic bastard. You celebrate your life.
I really am.
Celebrate your life.
I really am. Like, I hate it when, for instance, one of the most frivolous things that I fucking hate are gender reveal parties with babies. I know you had one, and you guys did it good. You guys did it right. You guys did it fun.
We always do it right and fun.
All right, but it always just usually it feels like such a, or I don't know, when people get so like, God, I sound like such a nihilist. I'm like staring to the void of death, the utter nothing. Be happy with nothing. But when people get so happy that they're having a kid, like, or like they expect, I guess it's when they expect the congratulations. They're like, I'm having a child, and like I got one. All right,
congratulate me, I had sex.
It's, all right, man, you fucking, and your girl said leave it in, and then you went, ugh, and then now you did probably like the third most basic thing a human can do. That's fuck. The first one is probably breathe. The second one is probably shit, because you're gonna shit involuntarily no matter what.
And you need sleep, so it's definitely in the top 5.
It's definitely yeah. I put it even in top 3. You know what I'm saying? I don't myself. Yeah, sleep, shit, fuck. Those are my 3.
Oh, I'm Cuba, your host, by the way, and that's Roy over there, the nihilist.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Who, oddly enough, this is weird. This is weird. We'll get back to this topic in a second. But first of all, Aaron's not here today. Our resident Yeti is not joining us. You know, I don't even know why. We made fun of you last week when you were late. Actually, we make fun of you every time you're late or don't show up. But we generally know the reason, or we assume the reason. With him, he never gave a reason. He's just like, yeah. Can't. It's like what are you doing? You're just sitting there playing Mass Effect. I know you are. You're listening, Aaron, because you're the only one out of the 3 of us actually listen to this podcast. So you're sitting there playing Mass Effect. You lazy son of a bitch.
His girl got a promotion at work, so you know what that means, right?
Yeah, but they celebrated yesterday.
More money for more cats.
Oh, so yes, right. That's right.
So he just slit the throat of a pig to feed his now new pack or pride of cats, you know?
Yep, enjoy those 3 new cats you'll get in the next month.
It's creepy, yeah. It's just, to me, having more than one cat is just a creepy thing.
Yeah, I almost like lost this cat. I told that story off air. I'll spare us. It's not even that interesting. I just left the door open.
Yeah, it would have been a better story if it got carried away by like a hawk, and they just lie. Next time, just embellish. I mean, I do it. So
I left the door open. The cat got out, and a pterodactyl came.
Yeah, just a red-tailed hawk just swooped down or a bald eagle. You know, your cat hates freedom. It's a commie cat.
Yeah. Well, he did come back, so he definitely does hate freedom. What else is weird? Is you're not here in the studio with me. You are across the interwebs Skyping.
I know.
You figured out Skype. I gotta applaud this. Hold on.
You gonna make me blush.
Yeah,
you gonna make me blush.
You look a little flushed.
Ooh. I know. Ooh, senpai.
And it's still light out, which is totally throwing me off. I know. I think we started this podcast just as it started getting dark out last year. So we've been podcasting for years. We're no strangers to podcasting during the daylight hours, but
we just don't like it.
Well, it's our previous podcasting location was like a cave. Aaron would put the blinds down, and you can't see
your basement,
out.
And your basement is better than a cave.
It is because at least I can see out the alien window, the one that we're always afraid of. I'm staring right out that window. I have sunshine coming in. There's actually a good amount of light that comes into this basement during the day, and that window is on the sunset side of the house. So yeah, I'm getting the last bits of rays of sun rays through the window. but it's almost 7:30. It's past 7:30. The sun's still out. Dude, there's legit kids playing on the street. It looks like a childhood war zone out there because there's 3 kids that live across the street, and now there's new people that moved in at the top of the street, like the house across in perpendicular to the left, and they have like 2 kids, maybe 3 kids, but then those kids have a bunch of friends over, so there's legit like 8 kids out on the street. There's bikes and hockey sticks all over the place. They're playing with chalk on the street, and I'm like, wow, this is nice. This is like a nice little quiet bit because I live on a dead end street. They can do that, so it's like this is a nice little quaint bit of suburbia. My kid, before I brought her back to her mom's house, was out there playing with them, and I'm like, this is nice. I like this. You know, it's totally stark contrast to the whole clip that somebody unloaded down the street last night at 4 a.m. I'm sleeping, dead asleep. My window's open. I hear pop, 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 pop. And like both my wife and I wake up, we looked at each other, and we at the same time we went, "Those are gunshots." And it's not like we've heard gunshots before, but it's different when it's closer. You know, when it's closer, it doesn't sound like in the movies. When they're further away, you're like, those could be firecrackers, or it might sound like gunshots in movies. But no, it's like this was very close. I was like, I hope nothing went through my wall or something like that. It was crazy, and like I said, it was like 4 a.m, and I'm like, that's not someone coming home drunk and playing with their gun. That's not someone target practicing. You don't unload a whole clip like that.
That's when someone's sitting in a car and you got a problem with it, and you just kind of fucking
exactly.
Just kind of start aiming rounds, not even aiming rounds, just blowing through doors and shit. You know,
it's crazy because this is the quiet part of town where there's very few police patrols and stuff like that over here because this is all like nice area and everything.
Yeah, you do live in the probably one of the nicer parts of one of the shittiest towns in our county.
Yeah, you know? It's like the center of the town, the city. You know, it's right around the corner. Like this area where I am, you go across the street, all these wicked nice houses. You go down the street, all these wicked nice houses, all up and down here. But then you like take a left off my street and take a right, and then boom, you're on Main Street, Brockton, and it's crackheads and hoes and fucking. Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, Cuba. I Shazam! Your dick, ooh, I seen it.
It's amazing the difference. So I mean, that's the direction that the shots came from.
Of course. There was no ventriloquism on that. It's not like the sound bounced around and it was really coming from the nicer part. Let's be honest. See, I have the opposite. See, when somebody shoots a gun around here, I mean, I can throw a rock and hit somebody's cow down there. You know, I got a guy who rides a tractor with no shoes, literally suspenders with no shirt, and a straw hat with like the thing, like the little like hayseed coming out of his fucking mouth, and he rolls that tractor down the street. It is paved, but he'll roll down the road at like 10 miles an hour. This big green tractor pulling bales of hay, and every once in a while you hear badoosh, badoosh, and you know it's a shotgun. Like it's not like a pistol.
Yeah, well, you live in a much more wooded area, and I lived in Middleborough for many, many years. So when you heard gunshots there, it's rednecks target practicing in their yard.
Exactly, it's a black powder fucking musket. Like,
right? Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
You just hear
so. Yeah, you've got some fucking fellow swamp Yankee down the road going, "Boy, fix bayonets!" And, you know, you're trying to like get the rod down there to put the powder in. You know, it gets pretty old school.
Gotta get them southern bastards.
Exactly. Ooh, get them. What do they get? Them yellow belly gray coats. Get them rebels.
Yeah.
So what do we got going on today, brother?
So we got what we got going on here is we all know that World War Z, the movie, was that doesn't even do justice to how terrible it was. It's a good explanation. I mean, I would say that sums up the movie, but like it was a complete dog pile of a movie. Like that was so. I can't even get into how terrible of a movie that was based on the book, the fantastic book.
I've seen 10 minutes of it, and I refuse to watch anymore. I really, really fucking did. Like, I couldn't stomach it. I was like, fuck it. I'm not watching this shit. No.
It was terrible. It was very, very, very. It wasn't good. It was terrible. It wasn't bad. It was terrible. That's just how bad it was. So it was announced this week that David Fincher is going to be directing the sequel. For those unfamiliar with David Fincher, he is most famous as the director of Fight Club. He also directed Seven. He directed Alien 3, whatever you might think of that. He directed Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, Gone
Never seen
Girl,
those.
Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Zodiac. But either way, Fight Club is his claim to fame. Seven is also a great movie.
What's in the box?
He's got a great resume. He's a great director. Fight Club itself, based on a book. I never read that book, but he knocked that movie out of the park. That was a great movie. And so it's like, whoa, wait a minute. They gave him the sequel to World War Z. That's very interesting because World War Z ended where clearly they meant for it to have a sequel, but it was such a piece of shit movie that it doesn't deserve a sequel.
Okay.
And there's very little detail on it, but I'm wondering if it's going to be like a reboot or
I hope
if
so.
it's going to be a continuation. Like you and I, you read World War Z, and
Several times.
It's
Very good.
for those of you who haven't, it's based on it's like a series of interviews with people about the zombie apocalypse war. I won't go into too much detail because it is a really good book and you need to read it. But I mean, it's not a spoiler to say that humanity won the war. Otherwise, the person,
The book never.
the book
Yeah,
wouldn't exist.
Breaking the fourth wall of writing this book in that universe would not have happened. It's
Exactly.
It's like a journal or
He's doing
a biography
Yeah, he's conducting
of
interviews
human-
with people. All the unnamed author of the book, essentially. And that's one of the coolest aspects of it. The
It
movie
is.
does away with that. Brings Brad Pitt on as I don't know what something.
He was a doctor of some
Something.
sort, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. And he goes all over the world looking for a cure. Of course, they make it the most. They boil it down to all it shares with the book is the title. That's all. Absolutely
that's
nothing
fair.
else with the book. I mean, there's not even. They don't even really try to bring you a scene from the book that the movie. It's. I mean, besides going to Israel, because he goes to Israel, I think, or they talk about Israel in the book. But that's it. That's the only similarity. Nothing else. Nothing else. So it got me thinking. World War Z is a great book. Fantastic book. World War Z, the movie, piece of dog shit.
Before we get into the topic of this week, the reason I'm not as excited about as you, no matter the director, is because
Oh, I didn't
World
say I was
War-
excited. I'm intrigued.
Oh, okay. All right. Intrigued. Sorry, I misspoke. I am not excited or really even that intrigued for this movie because World War Z is not best done as a movie. It's best done as something like a Netflix series. You'd need at least a 13-part. You'd need to set it up more like a Ken Burns documentary.
Right? Yeah,
than
that'd be very
anything,
cool.
'cause
If
you
it was
need, like, a
shot
2-part.
documentary style, the movie.
You need exactly.
That's what it needed. Because that's what the book was.
Yeah, you need a 10-part series.
And that's unfortunately what comes down to. This is going to be the basic common denominator with everything that we're going to talk about tonight, because that's what I feel. We've talked about this before in the past, how just it's almost to the point where movies don't matter. Where it's at is television, like Netflix, Prime, Hulu, Stars, HBO, and we'll get into that because there's a couple of things that's going on with that. But the premise of this episode here is great books that were bad movies. And we'll talk about a few books that were really good movies, and and you will see. We might throw out some suggestions of what we think what books would make a good movie. So,
I've got an actual list.
look at that. He's got a torn piece of notebook paper.
I actually nope. It's the back of an envelope that one of my bills came in.
Well, it's called
Let's go.
recycling. Do you want to go? You want to start with some of your suggestions or anything?
Sure.
And I'll say, if anybody wants to go read any of these books, I go read books. The more I know, it's believe me, I haven't read a book in a while. The last thing I read was Compendium 3 of The Walking Dead, and that's my problem is I'm so goddamn busy. I mean, I just cannot during the day, no time. At night, I'm tired or I'm working on one of several projects, whether it's this thing, something that actually makes me money or whatever. And, or I'm just so goddamn tired, I end up going to bed. But when I do read, it's like bliss. I get sucked in. I'm up till midnight, 1 a.m, and you know, I'll breeze through the book in a week. I don't read as fast as you, Roy, and I can't read as fast as my wife because she does that like look at the page and can instantly read the whole damn thing type of reading.
See, I don't do that. I'm just fast at processing the information line by line. You know what I mean? Like I don't know the technique for speed reading because I never really did it.
Yeah.
But I've been reading huge novels since I was like 8 or 9. So it's just it's how I grew up. I never really started with like, you know, this is red. It you know what I mean? Like 1 dog, 2 dog. Like I never really started with that. I was just like, hey, I'm going to read the Michael Crichton Jurassic Park novel and read that and completely absorb it and read it again and again and again at like 8 or 9 years old. You know what I mean? And then I went from that to like Congo, to The Lost World, to The Stand by Stephen King. Like I read like books. I didn't know anything else. You know what I mean? So
it's so funny. I'm so the opposite. I didn't start reading novels until I was at least 19. Ones that like school didn't make you read. And I liked reading. I always like...
That's because you were a dummy.
I wasn't a dummy. I was just thinking of Red Fox. That's because you were a dummy.
You were a dummy.
But no. You remember during like English class when they would have the whole class read and they'd have somebody read for like 5 minutes and then the next person would read 5 minutes, or they'd have the person read a chapter or something like that. I'd be done with the book in two, 3 classes, and because I always had to have my finger where they were, and then I was always reading ahead. You know, and I enjoyed the books we read as kids in high school. Lord of the Flies sticks out as, you know, that
Piggy.
I was like, that was a great book. I read the shit out of that, and I was legit. By the time they got to the end of that book, I was already done with it for like 2 or 3 classes. I was just sitting there. I had to like go, oh, it's my part now. Got to go back to that part there. But I didn't start reading like novels on my own outside of school until at least 19, when I was working a kiosk in the mall and I had nothing but free time. So I was either drawing or reading, and I would go up to the bookstore and I read mostly Star Wars books. I branched out after I read most of the Star Wars books, but I almost used the bookstore as a library because I would buy a book and then I would bring it down to my kiosk. I'd read it. I'd bring it back like 2 or 3 days later and exchange it for another book. Because they're all the same price, like, you know, like $4.95 for like a paperback.
We used to go there. Our old routine was that like you and me, or you, me, and Aaron, or you and Aaron would go to the Taunton Mall, the Galleria, go to the bookstore, and just read books for like an hour or 2.
Well, in all fairness, we read the comics.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Reading comics and shit like that.
But what I mean? That's like, where I got most of my reading. Before we started doing that as a kid, you were sitting there at 6, 7, 8, whatever, 9, reading the Strain, or whatever, Jurassic Park, and all these fucking 500-page books. I was sitting there reading comic books. That's my thing. I every week. I didn't even have, I wasn't walking distance to a comic book store, but the little drugstore 5 minutes from my house had the rack of comics every week.
There you go.
So that's where my allowance money went. I went to a 2-liter thing of soda that I would drink all by myself because I was a fatty. A big old bag of chips because I was a fatty. The Ghostbusters Slimer pie because I was a fatty. And then whatever comic books I could buy with whatever money I had left over, which is usually like at that time after I got all my fatty foods was like 3 or 4 comics.
Fatty. You were the quintessential fat comic book nerd.
Yeah, I guess so. I wasn't wearing my glasses at that time, but pretty much. So, but I do miss reading. And like I said, when I get into it, it's pure heaven. Like I sit there on the couch and you get comfortable and you're like, yeah, it's fucking good. It just feels good.
For some reason, I can imagine you like a basic white bitch in one of those commercials where, you've got a blanket over just your legs, but your legs are like perched up underneath you like a cat, right? So you're perched up, and then you've got your book laid out. It's like so well worn that it's like laid out flat, and you've got a warm drink, but you're holding it in both hands, sipping it like Ooh, I don't know why. Like that image just like
Well,
solidified.
you're close. You're close. If it's cold and I do have a blanket on, it's probably it's at least covering my lower body. I'll have a pillow on top of my stomach because for some reason I need, like, even when I play video games or just randomly sit on the couch watching something like that, I like having a pillow there. I guess I miss my fat belly or something, like, because I always need something to like rest my arms on like my stomach. It's like a weird thing I do. So I'll have that. I might have a warm drink, most likely a vanilla chai tea or a ginger tea, but I don't use two hands because that's just, I only need one hand. So I got my one hand and then I got my book in the other hand.
Speak for yourself, boy. I need two hands to, I got two hands to fill. Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of, that's the image in my head so anyway, yeah, what we were saying before was, I mean, this is going to be, I know I had to switch topics before I go someplace bad. So I was like, changing gears. We're not saying this is like a required reading list, but these books, if anybody wants to read them, they're on our list for a reason. They're going to be great books that made or awful movies, or books that we think deserve movies. I mean, that's what I have. I have on my list. I have 3 books that made shitty, awful movies, which is funny because I think Ben Affleck was actually in 2 of them. And then, and it's funny because you're going to say, oh shit, you know exactly who's going to say the quote. And then I have 2 books that, I narrowed it down to 5 because I could have hit you with
There's so many movies that are based on books that are good movies and bad movies, but we'll see. I'm interested to see if we overlap anywhere on our our good book, bad movie thing.
Probably not. I specifically went for ones. Mine are actually from the same author. I'll explain why. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I'm interested to see when you said the same author. So I have here, this is almost a cheat, but my first one I have is most Michael Crichton books. Most Michael Crichton books are great books. He's a fantastic author. Was a fantastic author. Sorry, R.I.P. But
we'll pour one out for our boy.
Yeah, one for my homies.
So
Michael Crichton, great author, and he's got some great books.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I forwent Michael Crichton books because I felt like that was the obvious one.
That's an interesting conundrum here because he's got great books, fantastic books. You can't deny how great of a science fiction author Michael Crichton is. And then, almost all of his books, or most of his major books, have been turned into movies. They've made like 2 or 3 versions of the Andromeda Strain. They've all been decent quality. I mean, if you they're
not awful.
No, if you like the original classic 70s one, it's that 70s sci-fi, which is cool. There was a more recent one a few years ago, which was almost the same, but with better special effects, but still quality. Then
wasn't there a show?
Might have been a miniseries.
I'm sorry, that's what I meant, a miniseries, yeah.
And then you got, obviously, Jurassic Park, which is like his crown jewel. And Jurassic Park is a rare exception to all the rules, because the movie is fantastic, and the book is fantastic. And then when you watch the movie, it's for me, it's running around in circles because you go, you read the book, you go, my God, they need to make a movie about this. And you go, they did. And it was awesome. And when you watch the movie, you go, oh man, I wish they didn't cut the really cool parts out of the book for this movie. But it doesn't make you hate the movie. You know what I mean? It's a dog chasing its tail.
Yeah, it's as perfect of a movie made out of a book that you can get, though. I mean, he had to, for a 2-hour movie, I think it's just under 2 hours or something like that. It's about as condensed and as perfect as you can get. Yeah. A lot of people, for some reason, hate on Jurassic Park lately, and I don't know why.
I think it's younger people because they've only saw Jurassic World first and then maybe saw Jurassic Park and they're dumb. Sorry.
Yeah,
there is no hating on Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is a classic movie in every sense of the word. It's Steven Spielberg at his finest. It's got a phenomenal cast, phenomenal story. In 25 years later, the fucking special effects still hold up more than almost anything done in Hollywood today. And I guarantee you, in another 25 years, we're still gonna go, that's fucking quality right there. That's fucking quality.
It will be, but we'll probably have actual cloned dinosaurs at that point, made out of chickens.
cut,
So
cut. All right. Somebody reverse the T-Rex. Give it some chicken feed.
You were gonna say his other books. You've got Congo, which I don't know if you've ever seen that movie,
Yeah.
but it's both awesome and awful at the same time.
Right. So that's on my list here because I've read Congo and it was a good book.
Yeah.
I watched Congo, and as a kid, it scared the crap out of me for some reason. I don't know why. It was fucking scary. But that's what made it good then. Then you watch it later on as an adult, and you go, not so good. Not so good.
Yeah. And then the funny thing is that it's got all the puzzle pieces. It's got all the check marks for everything that I want in a crazy movie. You've got extremely smart, violent apes. You've got a megalomaniac CEO who has nefarious purposes. You have the happy-go-lucky, plucky, cute girl. You've got the male, kind of oh yeah, I'm a tough guy. You've got a smart ape gorilla thing, and in the end, they fight with a diamond-powered laser gun.
Yep.
It's got everything that I want in a movie, and it's still
it's somehow lacking. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not. But even when I watch it today, if you watch it within the context of a B movie, it's completely enjoyable. Yeah. It's not the greatest. I wouldn't go see it. If I saw it in theaters now, I'd walk out of there thinking it was complete shit. But if you think of it as a 90s B movie, it makes all the sense in the fucking world.
The sad thing, though, is it wasn't a B movie. Not intended to
be.
I know. Anyways.
I know. Let me dream. A boy can dream. Boy can dream.
So his next book that I have here, I have 3 of his books that were turned into movies here. That, as an example, because like I said, he's almost the opposite of Philip K. Dick, where Philip K. Dick never really wrote a full book. He was all short stories, and they've all been turned into movies, and they have all mostly been awesome movies. Where Michael Crichton has great novels, and only very few of them have been turned in. They've all been turned into movies, but very few of them have been good movies. So the next one I have on here is Sphere. Sphere was a good book.
Really good. Did you read that when we lived when we were roommates?
Yeah.
Did you borrow that from me?
Yeah,
that's such a
it's a great book. It's a fucking great book. It's suspenseful and it's got such a mystery to it. And the movie's boring as fuck. It doesn't make any sense.
Was that Dustin Hoffman?
Right, yes, Dustin Hoffman. Sam Jackson was in it. I can't remember. It had a good cast. It's these people can act, but there was this. I don't know what they did to make this suspenseful mystery science fiction novel into a 2-hour bore. It's just I don't know. What did you do? What did you do?
It is an awful movie.
It is.
I mean.
It's one of those movies, at the end of the book, it's when you read the book, it's one of those books where you go, you close it and you go, wow.
Well, because you don't know, you're not positive of what happens.
Right,
they leave it on
but it was as much as I guess you could be on the edge of your seat while reading a book. That's one of those books where you're on the edge of your seat because there's such a mystery and then there's such suspense going on in the book, and you can see where they try to capture that in the movie. But they just do a terrible job. They just make it so uninteresting. They don't. I know the book doesn't answer too many of the questions, but it leaves more to your imagination than the book than the movie does. The movie is just very lazy with it. It's it's raining squid. It's they couldn't even show the attack of the squid or anything like that. It's coming. You see a big thing on a blob on the radar. And it's pooping little squids and that's what is going on here? What the fuck is going on here?
Now, can you imagine if the people who did say who directed that? Do you know who directed that?
I don't. I have to look it up. Hold on. Let me see.
Look it up real quick because I want Ridley Scott to direct that. I want them to remake it. He'd
have you crap in your pants.
Exactly. That's what I want. I want to see the movie Sphere and shit myself.
The next movie, and this is my final Michael Crichton movie, and I think and so far you've agreed with on me. Please don't agree on me. Agree with me. You've agreed with me on most of these, and
agree.
So my final one here is 13th Warrior.
It wasn't the 13th Warrior. It was Eaters of the Dead.
Right,
I believe.
Right. Yes.
I actually have that right next to my bed.
That was a good book, but the movie now I would say it's not a dog shit movie. It's just
Antonio Banderas.
yes. Antonio Banderas, clearly a Spanish actor playing a
A
Arab.
Persian? Wasn't he? Yeah, he was like a Persian or some shit.
Yeah, he was something. Yeah, he's supposed to be Middle Eastern, but it's like, no, he's not. Not at
I
all.
know.
Yeah, it's
Just because you have like a ruddy skin tone.
Yeah, and an olive skinned guy. It's like, come on, dude. Yeah, it's. And again, it wasn't a bad movie. It was actually pretty decent. But again, when you compare it to the book, no. But I just found it interesting that Michael Crichton's books, when they're turned into movies, they're just not done well. And I wonder if that and the difference between a Philip K. Dick story is that, like, Philip K. Dick's stories are so short, so they're able to just kind of make up more of their own when they make the movie.
Well, that's basically it. Is that you have Philip K. Dick, who's a great idea man, but he doesn't really fill out the universe. So when other people step in, you get kind of like the Star Wars effect, where George Lucas created a universe, but then when he tried to tell the stories, he kind of stumbled.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
That's
he had his line.
That's a good analogy.
But Michael Crichton he's such a good writer, and everything is already well thought out and portrayed. Like, using the word perfect author, like those two words together, it doesn't feel good for some reason, but the way he lays things out is as close to perfect in a science fiction novel sense as you can get. I mean, I think he's definitely underrated as far as that. Like, you always hear the greats in science fiction, you know what I mean? But
I think another decade or so needs to go by before he might be considered up there amongst the greats.
Yeah, it's just
because he only really got his start in the late 70s, early 80s. His works were relatively young still.
Yeah, it was. I think you're right on that. Another decade or two, and he'll be remembered as one of the greats, definitely. I'm gonna jump into one. Are those all yours, or do you have more?
No, I have a couple more. I have probably.
Right, we'll bounce back and forth.
I'll let you go next, because right here on my list I have one we've talked about a lot, so I'm not gonna go too into it. I have one that is probably the granddaddy of all fantastic books that were turned into the most dog shitty of shit movies. But I'll save that.
Now, mine are all going to be sort of obscure, and I highly doubt that you've read them. Not because you're not well read, but because I don't think you really know this author very well. The author's name is Dean Koontz, and he writes fantastic.
I never read any of his things, but we have a mutual person that we had been of that was her favorite author.
Yeah, because of me from osmosis. Shot that in there, and she was like, "Hey, Dean Koontz is cool." So, all right, so I'm gonna start off with one that I was gonna say is a Ben Affleck movie. Really cool.
That just registered, and I'm like, oh.
Ben Affleck was the shit in Phantoms. I'm gonna go with Phantoms. Phantoms is by Dean Koontz, and it's an awesome book. I like to liken Dean Koontz. I regard him as a Stephen King light, where Stephen King gets a little too verbose, and his books go on forever and ever and ever and ever. Like, I've read The Stand,
and I think I have to end a book.
He doesn't. He just kind of like, he's coming off his cocaine, high.
And it's over now.
Right. I mean, it ended in a underage gangbang on like a preteen girl in a sewer. It did. Look it up. I swear to God, that's not me. That's not my fanfic. Okay, this is legitimate. It actually happened. So the way I like I said, I like him as Stephen King light, and he takes stories that Stephen King would write, and he shrinks them down to their essence. And that's what he expounds. All right, so it's these people, this town, and lots of people are going missing in this town. It's like a mountain town in Colorado or Denver. It's somewhere in Denver. People are locking themselves in the house and committing suicide. Nobody understands why. There's these weird creatures that appear, too. The giant eagle-sized moth that lands on someone's face, liquefies it with acid, sucks it off, like sucks their face off, and just flies away into the darkness. It mimics things, and hence the word phantoms. It can recreate things. They call in like this biohazard, like biological type military unit, and it turns out that it's this weird shape-shifting it sounds really weird when I say it out loud. Amoeba, like a giant. Somebody found a book. It's called The Ancient Enemy, and it's an explanation why you have ghost ships, while it helps in the extinction of the dinosaurs, the Roanoke colony, why the Mayan civilization completely disappeared, mass disappearances throughout all of human history and prehistoric history, and it's actually these these creatures that are bigger than houses, but they can shrink themselves and they go through drains or cracks and stuff like that, and they liquefy creatures and whatnot and absorb it, and it becomes like slowly sentient. And like first it started off as like just a stupid amoeba, way
stupid amoeba.
And then like it started to gain animal intelligence when it started eating animals. You know what I'm saying? And they only come out like once every 100,000 years or something like that, or even less. So eventually, when it starts getting to eating humans, it gets like sentient. It starts communicating with people, kind of like the Sphere does in
Sphere.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know what else to call it. The intelligence in Sphere, how it like talks to people on a computer.
Yeah,
does the same thing. Where the more people it's killing and eating or absorbing, the smarter and more intelligent it gets. The same way in Sphere. It's just a really, really cool idea. And then the movie, it just sucks. Like there's no way. Like they tried to do that storyline, and I know it sounds goofy as fuck. I know it does. But then again,
but I'm a fan of sci-fi, so I mean that sounds like a great concept. And it sounds like something, and Hollywood did that with the Blob back in a way originally.
Yeah,
it sounds like it's something that Hollywood should have been able to pull off.
Honestly, it was just a no budget Ben Affleck when he was a kid. Not a kid, but like he was like in his 20s, just a dog shit film. Ugh. I mean, like it just puts a bad taste in my mouth because of how much I love that book. It's so good. So yeah, like they just didn't do it well. Like they just didn't have the budget. The actors, Ben Affleck, he's not the worst actor, especially even at that time.
He got better with age.
He did. He became a fine wine. He aged well. Like Leonardo DiCaprio is somebody who just kind of like leveled and has always been great.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But Ben Affleck is definitely was dog shit and then slowly climbed out of that. But that movie sucked and it really deserves a second go. It really does.
It's been a long time, like since that movie. So I mean, in the age of the remake, it could be up for something. I mean, I haven't heard, but
yeah, I doubt it. Just because Dean Koontz he's a very prolific. He writes probably some of the most amount of books that I've ever seen from a modern author.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like he's not obscure because he's got. I've never read a single one of his books, but I feel like he's one of those authors that comes out with like a book a month.
Right, he is, but all of them are shitty TV movies. All of them. The next one on my list is another Dean Koontz book, and it's the same thing. Great concept, shit movie. Watchers. I don't know if you ever read Watchers. I highly recommend it.
I've heard of that one.
A man named Travis who loses everyone in his life. He believes he has what he calls the Cornell curse. His brother dies, his family dies. They all die in weird ways. So he's convinced that anyone he loves or anything like that is just meant to die. He lives by himself. He's a hermit. He lives out in the California, like Big Sur, basically. You know what I'm saying? Like Big Bear, all that where it's wooded, redwoods and stuff. And he finds a dog out there. He believes that he's being hunted by a mountain lion. And then he's saved by this dog who is a little bit more than what he seems. He's really intelligent. And then the more time he spends with this dog, like for instance, somehow when he says something about the glove box, like, oh, you must be hungry. I've got beef jerky in the glove box. And the dog looks at him, looks at the glove box, whacks the glove box like thing, latch, and it opens. And he grabs the jerky and hands it to the guy for him to open. Like he's very, very intelligent and he can understand. And Travis doesn't understand why. Turns out that he's an escaped laboratory experiment from some sort of deep government thing. And he's a golden retriever with the rough intelligence of a human. He can learn, he can love, he can understand human speech. He learns to read later in the book. And he's
like that'd be on Disney Channel. It's like Air Bud 10.
It kind of does, but there's a dark side. There's a dark side to it too. So Travis takes this dog, and the dog is on the run. People are looking for it, the government officials and stuff. So he tries to lay low.
Don't disassemble Johnny Five.
Johnny Five is alive. Your mother was a toaster. So there's a dark side to that project. So you have him, who was like the shining glory of this government project, and then you have the dark underbelly of it, where it's everything that he's not. This thing is like they create a creature, a genetically modified creature to weaponize. They call it the Outsider because it just doesn't belong, so that's what it called itself. And it's everything that Einstein is yet isn't. Like, it's intelligent, but it's like an animal bloodlust intelligent with mixed with a person. It's part bear, baboon, lion, wolf. It's just this weird
Jesus.
agglomeration of animals, and it's black and hairy and fucking crazy. It's like as close to a werewolf as you can like get. You know what I'm saying? With like these like crazy long claws and shit. It's if you took a werewolf and it fucked a velociraptor.
Oh God!
You know what I mean?
This is.
And the day that Einstein escapes, this thing goes nuts because there's this weird connection between the two. And it feels like this. They both feel a weird connection. It escapes and it wants to kill Einstein. It hates Einstein. So it's basically Einstein and Travis on the run from the government officials who are all, and they're also on the run from the outsider who's also being chased by the officials. And there's a whole bunch of other characters, including a crazy ass assassin who believes that he could, when he kills people, he absorbs their life essence, and he calls it the snap or the moment. Like, it's a whole bunch of fucking great elements. It's another really, really good. It's Michael Crichton level science fiction mixed with mystery and suspense and even romance and horror. It's the perfect.
I'm just
book.
picturing this trailer in my head. It's like the story of the ages with romance, action, suspense.
Oh no! What's behind that door? Horror. That was me.
It's
that was
behind.
Me it's behind. Dude, you can't say that, man, because I'm got a window right here, and you have the creepy alien window.
I don't know
right
if
there.
you've noticed my eyes, but it's very, very windy today. And so the sun is down now. It's now officially dark. And that window is backlit by the house across the way, the house next door with their floodlight that's always on. And because it's windy, the bush next to this window keeps like blowing and moving in front of the window. So out of the corner of my eye, if you look at me, I keep looking up very oh my god, because
I keep doing the same thing.
Movement is freaking me out. I don't have you here to block my view of the window.
You don't have me to protect you, to hold you at night when it's raining outside.
Yeah,
keep you safe.
When something when a velociraptor werewolf busts through that window, I don't have you to fight it off while I make an escape.
I'm just gonna die while you're like, peace, buddy. So going back to Watchers, that they made a movie on it, and again, there's no excuse. These are just bad Lifetime style TV movies that should have been good. They would have been good had they been done right, and they just didn't. They weren't given a budget.
Yeah, was it a theatrical release? Because I don't remember.
No,
okay,
no,
so it's literally a TV movie.
Yeah,
well, Phantoms had a theatrical release.
Yeah, but it was in there for like a week because it did miserable. Because even though Dean Koontz, everybody, people who read know him, and he's incredibly prolific, but he's not a big name seller. I don't know, I don't know how to put it. You know his name, I know his name. Anyone who reads halfway decent books knows his name. But they don't take he's not a big screen guy, and he could be. His books are fantastic.
You got any more? You want me to go to one of mine?
I've got those are my main three.
I'll sum up the rest of my list, and those of you listening, I'm sure you might be sitting there screaming, "But what about this?" Whatever we don't cover, let us know. We can't cover every single piece of shit movie based on a good book, but these are just a few that I guess each of us thought definitely were just egregious when it came to good movie, bad book. So I'm not gonna go into this one a lot because we've mentioned it so many times. I Am Legend. I'm just that just gets in just a customary mention of a great book that was totally ruined as a movie. So
I mean, that's legendary.
Go back to almost every episode, and we probably talked about that. Queen of the Damned. This is the movie. Okay. So this is the problem with Queen of the Damned. Interview with a Vampire, the movie, was a very, very good movie. It was very faithful to the book Interview with a Vampire. Like any movie based on a book, it omitted a few things, but they weren't overly important things. Some of the things that the movie didn't include were included in the book was how in the movie they're like, we went all over the world and we couldn't find any other vampires until they ended up in France, and then they found the other vampires. Where in the book, they actually find other vampires before the vampires in France out in like Eastern Europe, but they are not like them. They're almost they're feral. They're like feral vampires that snatch children in the middle of the night and live in caves and don't seem to have the ability to speak English. And I thought in the book, that was a really cool part for me. I thought it was very interesting because they're searching for people like them because they think they're the only ones. And when they finally find other vampires, they're mindless animals. So it discourages them until they find the vampires in France that are like them and speak English. And I can see why they cut that in the movie. It's one of those things where a book can take the time for a side quest like that, where a movie needs to keep the story rolling. So it doesn't take away from the movie, but it's just a little example of a difference. Now, I don't know why it took so long for them to make a sequel to Interview with a Vampire, because you have Anne Rice, obviously the author of the Vampire Chronicles, which is, all of her vampire books combined are called Vampire Chronicles. But her first three books were Interview with a Vampire, The Vampire Lestat, and Queen of the Dam. Vampire Lestat and Queen of the Dam are essentially like one big ass book, but they're two books. But the narrative from from the Vampire Lestat goes into Queen of the Damned as one. I mean, if she made it one book, it'd be like over 1,000 pages. It'd just be way too damn big. So when they made Interview with the Vampire, I believe it was their full intention to make the other two books. For whatever Hollywood reason, they waited like 13 years or something till they made a sequel. They waited until they're about to lose the rights. So that's why they made Queen of the Damned the movie. It's like, if we don't make a movie, then the rights go back to Anne Frank, and then she can shop the rights out to someone else. So let's make some money, and we will...
To who?
Did I say Anne Frank? Oh, man. I gotta stop drinking. I'm done. I'm done. I didn't have lunch today. It's been a very, very busy day. I woke up. I had an eye exam. I did a lot. I did a lot of yard work.
Fucking Frank, how did you fuck that up?
I don't know. She's an author too. A
vastly different type of author.
So they made the movie. They rushed this movie out so they didn't lose the rights. And what they did, why the Queen of the Damned is a dog shit movie, is because it takes two really good books. I think The Vampire Lestat is a better book than Queen of the Damned, but that's just personal preference because they tell one big long narrative. But they took these two books, they shoved them together, put it in a vice, squeezed the juice out of it, and then they took it and continued to chop little parts off until they had this dried out husk of a snowflake of a story. Now imagine, take a moment to imagine that, because that's how they made this movie. Queen of the Damned, the movie, hardly resembles anything of The Vampire Lestat in Queen of the Damned, the book. They cut out almost everything from The Vampire Lestat, which that entire book sets up Queen of the Damned. And it's just shit. It's just a pile of cheap special effect shit. Some good actors in it, but when in the movie, when they have the ancient vampires show up, you don't know who the fuck they are because they don't name any of them in the goddamn movie. And then they just die, so you don't care. It doesn't matter. They make you care in the books. They make it matter. It's just Hollywood being lazy and greedy. So fuck them and fuck that movie. And now, creme de la creme of my list. This one boils my ass hairs more than any other one.
Ooh, I can see it. Your ass is really chapped, isn't it?
Because this is a great book. Oh my God, it's one of my favorite books. Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. Laugh all you want if you haven't read it. Laugh. It sounds stupid. It is a phenomenal book. It is amazing.
It's a good one.
It's a great fucking book. It sounds stupid, but the way it is written, they make it work so well. To just a quick sum up, the narrator is reading Abraham Lincoln's secret diary. He was given this diary by a mysterious guy that he meets, and it's the hidden secret lost diary of Abraham Lincoln. And the actual author who wrote this, he did such a great job in his research of Abraham Lincoln and writing this story that he seamlessly fits in all this hidden history of Abraham Lincoln and vampires, and intertwines vampirism in in the New World and in the pre-Civil War America, and ties it into the issue of slavery, and it's the core reason behind the Civil War and how it affected Abraham Lincoln was tied into this since childhood, because it takes actual accounts of his childhood and things from his life, but puts a different twist on it where it's like, wow, it's fucking believable. Like, they do such a great job. Like, you have to applaud it, because it's not just someone who sat down and wrote a fiction about Abraham Lincoln. They took Abraham Lincoln's life and tried to realistically fit in these supernatural elements. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And it's written, so you're reading about the guy who's reading the chapters of the diary to you. So it's Abraham Lincoln in the first person as the diary parts are going on.
Right.
It's so good, and the ending is so good. I'm not gonna spoil anything. Go read it. I believe a sequel came out, which I have to get. That's one
really?
I have to. Yeah, it's either coming out or it came out. But I know a sequel was recent, so I definitely have to get that to follow up with it, because the way they ended it, it's like, ooh, really? So then, the movie came out, and I remember them saying, "Oh, Abraham Lincoln Vampire in the movie." I'm like, great, like, that's a great book.
It's such a dog shit movie.
Oh my god,
so bad.
dude, that wasn't even dog shit. That was fucking dog shit that the dog ate and then vomited up and then ate again and then shit it out. That's how bad that movie was. That movie was so bad. We can all sit through bad movies. We've all sat through bad movies one way at one time or another. This movie was so bad I could not sit through it. It was just terrible. It was stupid. Like in the novel, Abe Lincoln.
The funny thing is that the movie is as stupid as the book title sounds.
Exactly. Yes.
It's like somebody didn't read the book. They just saw the title and was like, "Hey, that's a really good idea." And then they made a movie on that. Like,
well, the funny thing is the movie follows the book a little more closely than World War Z followed the book. World War Z is a completely different movie from the book, where from what I saw of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, it followed the book, but it just did it so poorly. Like, they in real life and in the book, Abraham Lincoln was known to be just very, very strong, because he spent his first 18 years of his life chopping wood, like 18 hours a fucking day. He had like almost superhuman strength. And this is a real thing in real life. He was a super, super strong guy from that. And you chop a lot of wood for your wood stove. You know that, like, the gorilla strength that it gives you.
I got you. Look at them forearms, son. You can't mess with this.
He was known to be a wrestler in his youth. He was a strong, tall guy when he was younger. And in the book, they incorporate that to when he becomes a vampire hunter, he's able to just like essentially like cut them in half with his axe, because he's so strong. Because
the only thing that makes it a level playing field, like, and he even gets messed up a few times.
Definitely.
But the thing is, the reason he doesn't get like his spine broken when he gets hit by a vampire is because he is that strong. He's just extremely stout. I mean, one of my favorite passages was like he was getting picked on or something like that, or like I can't remember the name of it, but there was like called himself like the Blueberry Boys or some weird small time gang name, and like they were like, "Oh, look at the new guy," and he just like walked up and just grabbed one by the throat and just picked him up off the ground.
Right? Yeah.
It's like, held him. I'm like, dude, that is so badass. Like, that's
people have this image of him being like this tall, old, frail man, but historically, in his prime, he was tall, lean, and muscular. He was
a motherfucker.
Yeah, he was a solid muscle. He could probably physically fuck up any president before and after him, because he was just such a lean, strong motherfucker.
Roosevelt's got heart, though. I don't know. Roosevelt's got heart.
True.
Teddy, yeah,
True.
you know.
He's a strong dude, and in the movie they don't emphasize that enough. He just starts practicing with an axe, and then he starts spinning it around like fucking Darth Maul. Like, I look really stupid on the video right now because this is me. If you're watching the video, this is me spinning my axe. I look like I'm just, I don't know what, like the Love Shack song or something. But like,
Love Shack, baby, Love Shack.
in the movie, he's spinning the axe around like some sort of fucking ninja master, and I'm like sitting there watching, what the fuck is he doing? And then he hits a tree, and the tree literally explodes. He doesn't cut through the tree; it just explodes. The splinters go flying all around, and like a piece of dynamite was in the tree. And I think it was at that point, already 30 minutes into the fucking movie, and I went, nope. I threw my arms up. I said, fuck this shit, and I didn't see it in theaters. I think I watched it when it came out on HBO, and I said, "Nope, that done. Fuck it, fuck it." I saw him. I saw him fight his first vampire. Then I saw him do his training montage, and I said, "Nope, fuck this shit sideways."
Now, see, the fun thing is that everything you just said about that sounds like it could be great. Like, it sounds like, dude, I want to see Abraham Lincoln, top hat and everything, with his sleeves rolled up, twirling a giant axe, and then exploding trees in one shot with an axe. Like, that sounds great, but when you do it in a serious way, it just falls so fucking flat.
Well, that's the thing. I don't think of the movie, I don't think was meant to be serious. It almost was like, we're making Abraham Lincoln vampire hunter. Let's have fun and make this just stupid fun. But it's not meant to be stupid fun. The book is a serious book. It sounds stupid, but it's got such a serious narrative to it. It's got gravity when you read the book. You know what I mean?
That's why I said it's like somebody read the title and was like, hey, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do that. That'll be fun. That's like what's on Sharknado? What's on after that? Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yeah.
Like that, it just sounds... It sounds like a really
it's the same
bad
dude who wrote Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Fuck it. It gets me so angry. It always gets me so angry to just... It
is a granddad. That is an ass chapper. That is definitely an ass chapper. Mm-hmm. It is. Mm-hmm.
So you have some suggestions some books that you would like to see turned into movies.
Yeah, I think these would both be better served as a mini series or a Netflix series or something like that. You know what I mean? Like a short. You know what I mean? To get the true character development that you really need. Both of mine are post-apocalyptic type things. One is called Dies the Fire, which, Cuba, do you still have that book? I
still have that, and I have not had a chance to read it.
You need to read it. Something crazy happens, a flash of bright light goes around the world, all of a sudden gunpowder doesn't work. Anything that requires explosions or high pressure, there's like a weird molecular change. Things don't work anymore. So humanity very quickly dissolves back into like a feudal medieval type system where people or small groups of people overtake large areas. It's really cool. It's like the interplay of this one area in Oregon and how they go back and forth, and it's the storylines of these people trying to survive in this world, trying to make do. And I mean, I really like a good dystopian or post-apocalyptic type story.
Yeah,
and the medieval bent and the fact that guns don't work anymore. It's not that they're scarce; they just don't work. Gunpowder fizzles. Things don't explode. Cars don't work. Electricity doesn't. Another one is called Blood Crazy. Blood Crazy is about one day, for some reason, all people above the age of, I think, 23 go insane. And they feel, they're not zombies, but they're more like from 28 days later when they're just filled with rage.
Oh.
And they have this incomprehensible need to kill anyone under the age of 23, including young children, especially their own children. They have this like compulsion to do it. The oldest living person that has thoughts like you and me is 19. So humanity completely fucking falls. And these groups of kids, it's like Lord of the Flies on a global scale.
I like it.
You know what I mean? Really, really, really good book. So, all right, what are yours, pal?
All right, so my first choice, the first thing that comes to mind when I go, this needs to be made something visual, is American Gods. So the American Gods disqualified because it is now a show on Showtime, which I cannot wait for because every trailer looks amazing. But American Gods is hands down one of my favorite fucking books. It is a great goddamn book. I don't even know where to begin to explain it because it's just so fucking crazy. I mean, I think I've just
It's
told
like-
you to like read it because I can't explain it. I just
It's like gods still exist, but people don't believe in them, so they kind of lost their power.
yeah, it's
So they live amongst us as like kind of like overpowered humans or something like that, like slightly overpowered humans.
Not, I mean, sort almost. It's so hard to explain. It's one of those, and I think he wrote this intentionally this way. It's one of those books that almost feels like a dream the entire time. Because
The art direction and style of the show on Stars looks really dreamlike. Actually, now that you say it, like
which I think
there's a lot of weirdness.
that's what I think the feel is, because when you read it, and I don't like reading books more than once. Generally, if I read a book again, it's because I really like it. If I read a book a third time, it's because it's a really good fucking book. American Gods is one of the few books I've read 3 times.
See, I buy books and read them repeatedly. I've bought the Jurassic Park novel. I think I'm on my third edition or 4th edition because it's the binding and pages fall out.
Yeah,
So-
Jurassic Park is the 2 Jurassic Park novels are probably the only other book that I've read 3 times.
Yeah.
So American Gods and Jurassic Park, obviously my 2 favorite books. So, yeah, I'm not gonna even go into explaining American Gods. Just to fucking go read it before you even see it on Stars. Go read it. It is a phenomenal book. If you love Neil Gaiman, I mean, this is like the epitome of his book. And it's funny because my second backup choice for a book is for a book that should be turned into a movie or series, I guess, is Good Omens, which is Neil Gaiman's first published work that he co-wrote with Terry Pratchett.
I was gonna say, I thought that was a Terry Pratchett book.
They co-wrote it.
Okay.
Apparently that's being made into a show on Amazon Prime.
Nice.
So there goes all the almost all of my suggestions. But if a quick recap of that book is it is the apocalypse, and an angel who has been living on Earth for a long time, and the snake from the Garden of Eden, who has also been living on Earth a long time, don't want the apocalypse to happen, and they accidentally misplace the Antichrist. So,
What?
so
What capers?
that's
Oh, no.
that just goes to show you, the tone of that one. If you've ever read anything from Terry Pratchett, then you just know. So that brings me to my third option. I have to dig deep now because all the things I love are actually finally coming to the screen. So this is a book that is not being made into a movie or a show, and I think would be a great movie and or show. But let's stick with movie for right now. So this is another Terry Pratchett one, and it's called Thud.
Good.
You and
The
I,
fucking sound effect.
you and I have different tastes in books. We have similar tastes, but I think I don't know if you read what I read. I don't know if you like Terry Pratchett. I love Terry Pratchett. I love that type of humor.
Yeah.
So if you've read any of the Discworld books, you know just the outrageous silliness of his books. This is the same, but what I like about it is it takes place on Discworld, but it is a murder mystery. It's this detective, and he has to solve a mystery of a murder of like a troll before there's a giant war in the city between like the trolls and like the dwarfs or something like that. And there's so he has to like find out who killed this dude, and he has to like interview the vampires and the werewolves and just all the weird shit and wizards that make up Discworld. And it sounds silly and stupid, but it is like a really good, compelling crime novel set in Discworld.
It sounds cool. I like the whole Discworld mythology. I mean, the fact that it's on the back of a flying turtle that's being held up by elephants in space. You know what I mean? Like, it's just really cool. Like, there's nothing that's not cool about the whole Terry Pratchett universe.
No, and like I said, all of his books are really good, but I think this one out of all of his books probably lends itself to Hollywood best just because of the crime drama aspect of it.
But the problem with making a Terry Pratchett movie is the fact that you can't make one, like, you can't set up that's a, oh Jesus,
they'd have to set up like a whole universe.
You need, that's like a Marvel type
Well, I mean,
You know what I
I don't
mean?
know. Do you? Because you don't need to read every single Discworld book. They're all self-contained, but
Right.
they
But
have the
you need to
joy
have,
of the greater universe around it.
yeah, you need to have the knowledge of the rest of the universe in a sense, though, because otherwise it doesn't work. You don't. That's what makes it so fun. You know what I mean? That's what makes it so fun to. So I mean, again, I feel like if those were really well produced Netflix movies and they could get out 5 or 6 of them and slowly build that universe, that would absolutely work. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, that'd be cool. Maybe one day everything's being made. So I'll wake up tomorrow and find out that they're making a Thud movie.
Right. Always in motion is the future and film. So
Yes. Well, Roy, this has been. I've had fun talking about great books and dog shit movies. I hope you guys have back at home. Like I said, there is absolutely no way we could have covered all the terrible movies that have been turned into books. We could go on for another 2 hours of all the great books that have been turned into great movies. But we're not gonna do that. If you like to read, I hope you take on some of our suggestions because they're definitely good reads. So thanks, Roy, for joining. Thank you guys for listening. You can find us on iTunes, of course, and we encourage you to take a moment of your day, leave a rating, and if you're ever so kinder than leaving a rating, you can write a comment, preferably a positive comment, and and that'll
any news, any exposure is good exposure.
Well, the rating really helps because the higher the rating, the more we're put on in places on iTunes and where people can find us. But we're also on just about every other thing you can listen to podcasts on. So if you're not an Apple user and a Droid user, you can find us on Google Play or anywhere else. And obviously, we have our website at modernretrocast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube.
We out.
Have a good night, folks.
See you guys.